Welcome back to Verse by Verse Bible Teaching. Learn the Bible more accurately and quickly. Matthew 17 Overview Part 3. Now, why would we say learn the Bible more accurately and quickly? Well, my goal, if I can say my goal, what I aspire for you and for me, of course, is to be able to identify the bottom line. What do we need to actually do? There's a lot of fluffy talking out there. There's a lot of swirling mystery out there. Okay, all these swirling mysteries of mysteries and mysteries. You know, we're just reminds me of that concept of a dog chasing his tail. He's just going around in circles, not accomplishing much of anything. Let's get bottom line. What does the Bible say? What is the Greek word? We're not trying to be Greek or Hebrew gurus here so we can sound smart and impress people, okay? We want to know what the word means so we can do what the Bible says. And since we're going to be held accountable for everything in the Bible, the New Testament, we better figure this out. And we better figure out how to actually do as a habit and only do what the New Testament tells us to do. This is called the reprogramming of your soul. This is called making Jesus your Lord. Okay? This is called putting Jesus's sayings into practice. So for the one example amongst many, we are building our house on a rock and not on the sand. You know, most people know that parable or that example. We've all heard it, but for most people, it just kind of goes over our heads. It's just like, okay, that's just, way out there. I have no idea what that means. Although it just says right there, put his sayings into practice. Well, wait a minute. How do you do that? What are his sayings? What are God's sayings in the New Testament? Well, how are you going to find that out? A caveman can figure this out if there ever was a caveman. Okay? You just read what he said. And you just go and do it. You know innately how to do these things. You know innately how to go do the right thing. We've been taught to think in ways that get us to sin. Okay, in terms of I'm not even just talking about the sin beliefs, but just in the thought process, the conscious mind, low-grade thought process. It cannot handle much. Okay? We need it for operation in this realm. And so you can start to look into various studies by all sorts of scientists out there. A lot of them go or border on the New Agey kind of thing, but there are scientific measurements and so on about the different brain waves and the different brain states and the frequencies and the subconscious versus the conscious mind, okay? And there's a breakdown of the mind, but then now they have, although most of us knew this, that they have now measured that the heart has its own mind, and it's measured by their measurements to be 8,000 times more powerful than the basic conscious mind. Okay, but your subconscious mind is measured to be 1,000,000 times more powerful than your conscious mind. So it's 40 bits per second versus, well, let me look that up again. Yes, it was 40 bits per second for the conscious mind, okay? And so we look to use the the subconscious mind when we are doing the volume Bible reading plans. As you can see on the right side menu should be, if you're not, just come to VersebyVerseBibleTeaching.com. Okay, now we get to some juicy stuff here. We've covered this paragraph and then this paragraph. Now we're on verse 14 here. We're still on the Complete Jewish Bible here at BibleGateway.com. That's BibleGateway.com. All right. As they came up to the crowd, a man approached Yeshua. Okay, that's Jesus, God the Son. Kneeled down in front of him and said, "Sir, have mercy on my son, because he's an epileptic and has such terrible fits that he often falls into the fire or into the water." Now, Complete Jewish Bible translated this as epileptic, trying to maybe get a little bit sciencey, but let's just go look at another version. Okay, now, if we look at Strong's here, to be moonstruck, now they do mention epileptic, to be influenced by the moon, moonstruck, lunatic. All right, now I've heard from Mark Taylor, who mentioned on one of his videos where he asks the Lord, Mark Taylor's a prophet, the fireman prophet. He asked the Lord, why are there so many more adverse events when there's a full moon? All right, and because he's a fireman on duty and has to respond to all these emergency calls and trouble scenarios and accidents and, all these nasty things. So the Lord told him that it's the extra light that agitates the demonic. Okay, so that's interesting. There's an association with the moon. Okay, so epilepsy being supposed to return and increase with the increase of the moon. So we hear a lot of concepts in modern times in medical philosophy, in the realm of medical psychology, having these terminologies, and of course they call them disease names so they can give them a pill for their disease. And you hear these different diagnoses. You hear this from psychiatrists and psychologists. They define certain mental states or behavioral patterns as this and that and this and that. They don't have an answer for the root causes. And of course, modern medicine, pharmacia medicine, doesn't care about your root causes. All they care about is a problem they can treat, okay, and treat over and over. They don't want your problem to be solved. You should know that by now. Hopefully you do. The nations are deceived through pharmakia. That's in Revelation 18. All right, anyways, before I go off on that tangent, let's go on for more about what this problem actually is. So we go to verse 17. Yeshua answered, "Perverted people without any trust. How long will I be with you? How long must I put up with you? Bring him here to me." So those statements right there sounds like the Lord is getting a little frustrated with the disciples. Okay, maybe just humans in general, but that's the type of expression, at least in the translation here. That's what comes across, you could say. So, even today, it's very frustrating. Look at all these different Christian denominations and religions cutting this and that out of the Bible. All right, so basically, if you cut a verse out of a Bible, if you don't pay attention to it or you ignore it, or say that it's invalid where you have no justification to say this or that is invalid, like, a popular one would be miracles or praying in tongues. So you have these religious churches and their various doctrines who say these types of things. because, for various reasons. Well, ultimately, you can come back to the belief levels, all right, and their relationship levels with God. And ultimately, their relationship levels with God probably won't be very good if you make up religious rules like the Pharisees, man-made rules that end up pushing God away personally. And that's the concept of this, what it's supposed to be. The work salvation is, although a lot of people are confused about the use of that phrase, it's also associated with being religious. It's also associated with the term legalistic. All right. So, and you know what? We can talk about these denominations and religions, Christian religions, or whatever you want to call them, a lot. But you know what? We can do this ourselves on an individualized basis very easily. Okay? Why? Because it's a battle between who's going to be Lord, you or Jesus. And are you going to walk in the Spirit? Or are you going to walk with your own will? And that's really, you could say, a central point in Christianity. And actually, because I was listening to one of these news shows, and they were interviewing this former satanic priest, and he was explaining how people don't really understand what Satanism is about and the main point of it. He says the central focus point of it is for you to make yourself God, okay? For you to become your own God, your own Lord, your own ruler of life. All right? So now, that with that statement said, that can get us thinking like, well, wow, never really thought much about it that way. It's like, I want to be my own boss. I mean, I know that's a statement used in, for entrepreneurs versus working from a job and all that. But when we come down to the complete level, who's going to be boss? Is Jesus going to be boss by us walking in Spirit and being led by the Spirit? Being guided, being obedient when he says, in the Spirit, when he says, okay, I want you to do this, I want you to do that. You probably won't know how to with your conscious mind. So therefore, you just have to trust. Okay? We just have to trust. And we have to trust that we're going to receive that information on how to do this and that, probably at the last second, which is how it usually goes. Okay? So you just dive in and do it. Okay? And you don't think about how you're going to do it. You don't think about if you're going to do a good job or not. You just do it. Okay? You just dive in, and if it's, but in full trust, you'll probably even do it well the first time if we are walking in really full, great trust. Now that I think about it more. Interesting. Basically talking to myself here. So this is the crux of the matter here. Are we going to walk after our own directive or the Lord? So now the question is, well, wait a minute. What is our own directive? What is our will versus the Lord's voice? Now this is going to take some pursuit and some reflection in yourself. Within yourself, you got to figure this out. I mean, you can listen to people explain it more. Maybe you'll get more clues to speed up the process, right? But that's something we have to all find on ourselves. How? Wait. What is my will? What is my imagination actually? For example, what is the voice of my imagination versus the voice of the Lord? What's the, because, for example, prophets or, certified prophets have to be very careful. They're not listening to their own imagination. And actually, the Lord called out a bunch of prophets, not individually, but just kind of in general. He mentioned that a bunch of prophets these days, like who had the gift of prophecy and the office of prophet, it sounded like, were speaking from their imagination, and they were not speaking the Lord's words. So then if these prophets who've already had some sort of experience being a prophet and probably said some correct words in the past, if they're speaking out of their own imagination, well, you can see, wow, it must be really tricky and sensitive to make sure, and really deep to make sure we're not speaking out of our imagination, and that we can make sure we tell the difference. So this is all our homework. We got to figure this stuff out. All right, the Lord God wants us to develop organically and go through all the steps. He doesn't want us skipping the steps here, because that creates a solid future soul. Okay, so you can do well and handle a lot into the future. All right, and that's the one thing I learned not too long ago, is that through a lot of these heaven visitation people in particular, was that, okay, wait a minute, I still have to develop my soul here. I can't just think, oh, I said that sinner's prayer, so I just kind of just go along and do whatever. No. I need to follow the Lord, and I need to do what He tells me to do, and then I get these ideas all the time, and then I work with the Lord on them, and that's what I need to do, should do, and so we do everything together, right? But I am starting to realize more and more that, hey, I have to develop my soul as much as possible when I'm here. Because, for example, if people, when they get to heaven, are underdeveloped, they actually have to go to school in heaven, okay? They have to go to Bible school and this and that. So then you may say, well, then why bother? Why not just wait till heaven, right? Well, now you're starting to look at concepts of, hey, are you fulfilling your destiny? You're going to be held accountable for it. Hey, are you bringing a return for God the way He wants? Okay, are you helping people? Are you doing the acts of kindness that have been mentioned in the separation between the sheep and the goats? All right, are you doing all the New Testament? So if you have trained yourself now, where you have more of an opportunity to train yourself in war world, which is a great training place, because in heaven you don't have all the bad stuff, right? So you can learn a lot from all the bad stuff and the challenges here, right? And dealing with the dark side, always trying to mess you up, and this and that. So I am perceiving that it's critical to be aggressive now, right? In this life, don't be taking it easy. We don't want to take it easy at all. We want to be aggressive and develop as much as we can, because this also sets our positions later on, right? As the Lord says, in the millennial reign, but more so, it seems to me, the new earth. Okay, remember that new earth is as big as a galaxy. All right, so there's a lot of room. There's a lot of things that are going to be on this new earth. So a lot of cities as well. So you want to develop yourself as much as possible in this world, and even your talents. You want to maximize them. You're going to be held accountable for those too. So you want to put those talents, because your talents are given to you so you can be a witness through your talents. An obvious one is a musician, right? You're a musician, performing musician. And so, especially a pop one where you have millions of people following you, and then you can be a good witness. An athlete's another one, right? So, but you can be, doing a great job with the talents you've been given, because that shows that, hey, you're a respectful, good person, because you appreciate what God gave you. So then, therefore, you're a person other people want to be around. Okay, so the similar thing goes with your physical body. Hey, you're being thankful and respectful to God by taking care of your physical body, by making sure you look good, Okay, and I'm talking about your health, your body shape, your muscle shape, even your face, and then you go on to the comb your hair and dress, all that stuff, or whatever your style is. So that shows respect and appreciation, as I'm starting to really get a picture of, which is very interesting, right? So we need to take advantage and really try to maximize out aggressively our gifts and talents so they can be used for the glory of God. You never know how you are going to be using them in the future. So there's just open-ended opportunity. You never know how they're going to impact someone. Okay, so this whole wonderful layer upon layer, many-angled thing that God has created, that we are involved in, we have to do. Remember that God is so many dimensions higher, so there's a lot of things. Okay, there's a lot of layers, and they all overlap and interact and intertwine, just like the Bible itself. And so in life, we want to be doing all these things. Okay, don't try to think in your low-grade conscious mind that can only process 40 bits per second. All right, no, I mean, I can't say, well, use your subcon, operate in that. Well, yeah, we definitely want to work on figuring out how to try to do that, but we are to be in the spirit man mind. And I don't know if how the subconscious mind is related to the spirit man mind, but you probably think that the spirit man mind's even higher than the subconscious mind. So I don't really know. I'm just speculating on that. But so you can comprehend all things. You can comprehend things of the spirit and the spirit man, the new man, right? After you are born again. How are you born again? You believe on Jesus for real in your heart that he is God the Son who came and died for your sins and rose from the grave back to God the Father. Okay? You have to believe on Jesus I call it for real, because I grew up in I don't know even know if you can call it Christian religion, but you can, because it's, sort of focused around Jesus. And so they just have you repeat rote. How are you going to believe if you're just repeating a bunch of words? You're not believing, right? I mean, maybe it's counted somewhat, but you're not really believing. Anyway, so we go back to this translation here of epileptic. Okay, all right. So the Lord didn't say, oh, well, let's go, call up the local pharmacy and get him a magic pill. No, okay? Lord's not going to be messing with sorcery, trickery, okay? Pharmakia is trickery, all right? These drugs, what do? They patch a little hole while blowing 10 more holes open in you. How can I say that? Just listen to their commercials. They'll tell you right there, okay? I mean, they'll tell you. Then you read the pamphlet, then, oh, it's even more. Okay. So we get clarification on what this problem is, okay? They called it epileptic, all right? But the Lord himself said it's a demon, okay? And then we get on to the next passage and we realize that it's a very strong demon. Then the Talmudim, the disciples, went to him privately and said, why couldn't we drive it out? He said to them, because you have such little trust. Okay, trust is something that can be developed. It's something that we can take on in boldness in large quantities at the moment. Okay, trust, and some would translate this as belief. All right. Trust is a little different than belief. Okay, you're trusting in someone. Trust is also this open channel, like this open tether between two people. You trust in someone, you trust that it can be done, or you believe in someone that they are good and they can do it. You believe that this can happen. If you say, I trust this can happen, you're a little bit more assured. Believe is more open-ended and more acquisitive, like, I'm not so sure, but yeah, it can be that way. A lot of people can use believe in that way. Or if you if you really believe in something, then it's something that is not a fact to you, because once something is a fact to you, you no longer have to believe it. It's a fact. The question is answered. A believing or a belief is a question. It's an unanswered question. And it's an unanswered question to the subconscious. You know what? I like the word here, trust, a little more, because when I say I trust it'll be done, there's more of confidence in that word. That's interesting. I just thought of that. Okay. Yes, I tell you that if you have trust as tiny as a mustard seed, you will be able to say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Indeed, nothing will be impossible for you. Now, that's a massive statement. All right, so Complete Jewish Bible, they do things a little different. The translator likes to focus on the word trust as much as he can. And I've found that by doing so, it helps open up a whole different, way of looking at what this concept of belief versus trust is. And it gets us really thinking a little bit different, and is much more helpful, I would say, because we can use the word believe and belief, and it can just be this vague, fluffy thing. Believe, oh yeah, believe, and we just move on our way, and we just don't know what it is. We just say believe, and it's just a mystery, a question in our head, and we just think, oh well, that's just a mystery question out there somewhere, and we can easily not hunker into it, okay, and link into it. So now this is a big topic, all right. I haven't personally told a mountain to move in terms of a physical mountain and had it move, okay. Now, I could say that I've had some mountainous goals accomplished, so this is something to look into much more, and to have this code cracked, which I think more and more people will have this code cracked within themselves in terms of knowing and reaching that level of trust in God, will be more likely now that we are in this kingdom age, because now we're also entering into the age of the greater works. So we will be doing miracles greater than the Lord did himself, as he said we would. So as Kat Kerr has seen into the future, she says there'll be all sorts of wild miracles, like raising people from the dead who've already been cremated. Okay, now that's pretty wild. Then having believers come and after an earthquake command everything to be put back, okay, and reconstructed or something like that. And just some really cool sounding stuff. I mean, stuff that sounds even better in the movies, right? So keep this in mind as we go through these various videos, as we go through the Bible, as you go through the Bible, what this trust is and how utterly powerful it is. How can we access such trust? How can we have such trust in ourselves? Even as little as tiny as a mustard seed in concept. So this is something that must be really deep and high level, okay, in terms of trust and faith. So, what's the first logical thing to do? Well, yes, we can research the Bible and we'll be looking at the Bible, but what's the logical, smart thing to do? Well, we start talking to God about that and we start listening. That's a good idea. All right. Okay, so this is what we all want to get to, because Jesus is implying right here that we should have this trust. Okay, we should be able to do this mountain moving. He says Nothing will be impossible for you. Cool. Let's go look at the Greek. All right. Nothing. Let's look that word up. No one, none, nothing. Okay. Oudis. All right. Will be impossible. Okay. To be impossible. Okay. So, to be unable, I do not teo. All right. So, all right. For you. Sue. Okay. So that translation here is lining up with the Greek in a literal sense. And nothing will be impossible for you. So are we going to believe Jesus? Okay. Yes, we are. So now, well, okay, nothing will be impossible for me. You say that now. Okay. You have to say it yourself. Nothing will be impossible for you. Okay. Say it yourself. Nothing will be impossible for me in the name of Yeshua. Nothing will be impossible. Everything is possible for me in the name, in the person of Yeshua. All right, so let's step up. Let's step this up. Okay, let's figure out how to have this trust. Let's get this learned, and we do this by working with God. Everything is about working with God. We built, because why? We're looking to build this awesome relationship that's to last an eternity, you know, like billions and billions and trillions of years and stuff like that. Okay, so the Lord warns them here. As they were going together in the Galilee, Yeshua said to them, the Son of Man is about to be betrayed into the hands of people who will put him to death, and on the third day he will be raised. Okay, so he's preparing them. Why? Because emotions can be powerful, and as Peter experienced, they can be very powerful if you don't know how to deal with them, if you don't know how to deal with the fiery darts. And, experience often is the best teacher on that. But just to have the knowing that it's the emotional energy that hits you. And if you can learn to let it pass through you instead of grabbing hold of it, you can better avoid getting yourself bullied into actions that you don't want to do, that are sin. So that's I would say a good practical tip, something to think about. All right. Okay, so then we went on. When they came to Kfar Nachum, the collectors of the half shekel came to Kepha, that's Peter, and said, "Doesn't your rabbi pay the temple tax?" Of course he does, says Kepha. When he arrived home, Yeshua spoke first. Shimon, Simon, what's your opinion? The kings of the earth, from who do they collect duties and taxes? From their sons or from others? From others, he answered. Then said Yeshua, the sons are exempt. Okay, but to avoid offending them, go to the lake, throw out a line, and take the first fish you catch. Open its mouth, and you will find a shekel. Take it and give it to them for me and you. So, in a sense, one could say, oh, we don't owe taxes. But to avoid offending them, and having them hunt you down and take all your stuff and throw you in jail and all that kind of stuff, then you say, okay, here's your taxes. Okay, here's your taxes. Obviously, this is miraculous, and also, just reminds me to just, walk with God and don't worry about things. don't worry about money, even when times are rough. Because first of all, what's worry? I mean, if you think about it logically, it's the thought of a negative event reinforced with a negative emotion, usually fear, you could say. And so then you're basically growing and charging up the negative thought in your mind. So you probably just end up making your worry happen. All right? That doesn't sound like a good idea. Okay, so besides that, logic, we're to learn how to walk in trust with God Almighty. We're to learn how to walk in absolute truth all the time. This continuous trust means we don't push God away and go off on our own. All right? That's on the insides. Okay, we walk in this continual trust. Enoch was a great example way back when. All right? Walked with God. So since God is always there, He's everywhere, He's always with us, you're born again, He's always close by, then, it's an ongoing, continual thing. So it's not back and forth. So this is how we have to mature into, and then turn it into a habit. Okay, it's the way that we are and the way we live. We unify with God, and really, what can we do without God? Error, right? But and so that's the push to, it's in learning the New Testament and looking to obey everything in the New Testament, looking to reprogram all your beliefs to what the New Testament says, right? You transform yourself, okay? You become a different person. And look, since probably no one ever programmed you with the New Testament as they were supposed to since a young age, then you're going to have to do it. We're all going to have to do it now. All right. You can say that you were, I don't know how you're raised and what you had put in your head from, song, music to media to this and that and people around you, but you're probably bombarded heavily with kingdom of darkness commands. Okay. It's the ways of sin. It's the ways of death. It's beliefs in the ways of sin. Okay, so we have to go now clean all that out. You can see the list of 666 sins. You'll probably be utterly shocked to see how many nothing against you personally, but how many sins you are actually doing. So what you do with that list is you get to understand, well, what does this mean? What does that mean? You get clarity on what each sin is. Okay, and this will help accelerate you learning what Jesus' commands are, because for the most part, Jesus' commands are the opposite of those sins. All right? So now you get clarity between right and wrong. You get clarity on what it means to make Jesus your Lord versus Satan your Lord. Okay? You get clarity on action now. And then once you start reprogramming your soul with Jesus' commands, His sayings, you start producing fruit. You start having a close relationship with God because you're stopping continually offending Him all over the place and making Him disgusted, right? And insulted. So, because you're sinning all over the place. He's like, ugh, So, as you reprogram yourself, you get better and better as you're reprogramming your soul. Yes, your spirit man's already set, okay? That's why you combine that with walking in the Spirit, you'll make accelerated progress. You're to obey the whole New Testament. We are to obey the whole New Testament. And how do we do that? We get aggressive and, and we just keep pushing and go layer by layer by layer. Don't think you're going to do it all at once. You just get these basic logic here and improve, okay? And as you start to try to obey one of Jesus' commands, like, for example, turn the other cheek, versus if someone says something to you, you go attack them back and then call them names and, tear them apart. Then you're supposed to say, you're not supposed to do that, right? So you're supposed to turn the other cheek. Well, how do you handle different variations of that? Okay. Now, physical is pretty obvious. And this, these are that's a tough one, right? So how do we handle, because you can have different angles and different insults and, a lot of people can get demonic insights and really know how to push your buttons and say things. I even encountered that with a a young 4-year-old kid. I'll just stop there. Okay, family. And he's saying stuff that that's just way too advanced for him to know. Okay. And so I said, oh, what's going on here? All right. It was pretty mind blowing. All right. And this kid, he's shooting birds all over the place and swearing all the time, and is out of control. But anyways, but no, it's not my kid. So, you'll start to see the difference between right and wrong, which is the meat of the word, right? The meat of the word. Once you get into the meat of the word, which is knowing Jesus' commands, you'll start to know the difference between right and wrong. Okay? And then once you obey Jesus' commands, he feels loved. Why? Because he says, if you love me, obey my commands. That implies that, that you'll want to make him feel loved by obeying his commands. All right? So then eventually you start to see that these commands, or the entire New Testament, all these statements that tell us to do this and that and not do this and that, or to understand this and understand this or that, or believe this or believe that. These are all God's rules of relationship that teaches you how to have a good relationship with him. Okay? Because that's what he wants. In perspective, in proportion, in relation, and, he wants worshipers in spirit and truth and so on. Look, we may think, worshiping, that can be pretty vast, and, from praise is usually associated with words. Worship sounds more like a musical thing, and maybe even a motion thing, like maybe lifting your hands, okay, and could be even, where you can worship and dance. I didn't know that before. Kat will explain that one to you. She has 3 daughters who are dancers for the kingdom. All right, pretty neat. He says, and she says that the Father and Jesus, I think that's what she said, but especially the Father loves to see his children dance. All right, that's about all I understand on that. But these are all interesting things. So the worship and praise, that's more. Praise versus worship. That's a different form of interaction. But if you look at it between human and human, if you really look at it, people love praise and they hate any sort of negative statement to them. They hate being, judged. They hate being thought of in a negative way. People go through extremes just to be thought well of, and popular, right? Yeah, you just look at TV, look at social media and this and that. People go through extremes just to be famous and have everyone love them. Well, what do you think God wants? Okay, remember, we're made after his image and his likeness. Okay, so that's about it with this module. Let's continue on and see where we go.